Thank you for having me. It's definitely a pleasure to be here. I've been in the space of technology implementation and business advisory for over 24 years now. It's like artificial intelligence, blockchain, virtual reality, augmented reality, IoT, and all of these different kinds of technologies rapidly developing.
So, what got you inspired and how has your journey evolved over time?
Thank you for having me. It's definitely a pleasure to be here. I've been in the space of technology implementation and business advisory for over 24 years now. I started off my career actually in the mid-90s as a programmer. So it was really a fascinating area to go into. And of course, back then, coding, programming was not as user-friendly as it is today. It was really a very exciting area to be in because I realized that I loved the problem solving and the structured and analytical part about technology development and implementation. And so I found my passion in that sense. And over the years, I've worked basically in technology implementation across the globe. I've spent a number of years in advisory or in consulting companies. So with Accenture, for example, I also worked for a number of years in Deloitte here in Switzerland, where I was the head of digital. And very quickly, I think I realized that, the core of technology and the value of technology really comes from the human aspect and integration into the business side of things. And so being in this area where I understood technology and loved the capabilities that it built, but also bringing together business elements and bringing together kind of the commercial value that companies can get out of technology, as well as driving people towards this not just usage of tech, but also advocacy of tech. And I think that's where I found my passion. So I've been in this space for a number of years, and I started Lardi Partner Consulting 12 years ago, exactly now. So I started in February 2012. And it's been an exciting journey. We've worked for companies across the globe, across different regions and industries. And we basically support organizations in understanding technology capabilities and utilizing it for digital transformation.
Yes, that was a great one. So, moving ahead, so managing stakeholder expectations and fostering organizational change can be a quite challenge in driving successful digital transformations. So, what are some of the significant challenges you have encountered?
Challenges are definitely, there's a range. And as you know, digital transformation is not a new topic. It's been around in the business area ever since we started using technology in the business environment. So it's a fairly, a topic that's been around a fairly long time. And the challenges related to that are, there's a range. The typical technology implementation or project management challenges always exist in ensuring you have the right solutions, you're building what the company actually needs, and you are implementing it within time, within budget, and all of that. But I think what's happened in recent years, over the last 15 years, we've seen technology development accelerate completely. And we're seeing these emerging technologies, which are kind of the weapons of mass disruption, right? So if you think of technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, virtual reality, augmented reality, the IoT, and all of these different kinds of technologies rapidly developing at a pace where it's building on the previous phase of development, and it's increasing the rate of development further. And so we're seeing breakthrough technology solutions coming out almost on a daily basis at the moment. And so what has become a challenge for many organizations is understanding these rate of developments and how these technologies potentially impact their own business. So that's kind of like the first element, really just understanding the progression in the market and the impact it could have on their business and industry. And then further looking at how do you actually take these tech solutions and apply them within your business environment to gain actual business outcomes or commercial outcomes. And that's the big challenge. We see often companies get swept away by hype and trends that are appearing in the market. A good example of that is the recent generative AI trend. before generative AI, about a year and a half ago, there was so much talk about metaverse. And before that, it was about blockchain. And before that, so every time there's a new tech development or solution in the market, it creates a certain hype. And this basically rolls into the next hype. And I feel from my conversations with business leaders across the globe, it can get overwhelming just keeping up with these trends. And that's one aspect of it. And once you start looking at digital transformation in your organization, it's easy to get swept away with the thought that digital transformation is about tech, right? So let's implement a technology that's our silver bullet solution, and that's going to solve our problems in the organization. But it's far from that. Digital transformation is not about a start and end of a project where you implement a technology, you tick the box. It is really an evolution. It's an organization-wide change that involves utilizing technology across your organization to capture, create, and of course, deliver value in the market. So at the end of the day, it really looks at, as you develop and implement solutions, you look at the next stage of development and you kind of evolve with the market and prepare your organization for the digital future. And so many of these types of transformative changes in an organization involve the people aspect. And this means looking at how change impacts people. There's always resistance, there's always fear, there's always kind of a pushback, a high level of uncertainty. And this is one of the biggest things that I, as a digital transformation expert, this is what I deal with on a daily basis. You really start to see the impact of change on people, and you have to become, to a certain extent, not just a tech expert, but also a people expert, because you need to understand why people react in a certain way and what happens when you bring a certain amount of uncertainty or fear into their environment. And so once you understand these changes or motivations and how they impact people, then you can really take the organization on this journey towards the digital future. So it's kind of a range of different elements, but I think one thing that's really worth mentioning as well is mindsets. For me, this is the biggest challenge in digital transformation. It's this mindset shift that's required to accept changes that are happening in your environment, and mindset shifts in the leadership as well, because leadership teams drive the tone of the organization in terms of what's acceptable, what changes should happen. And so a lot of times I have conversations with business leaders who have a limiting mindset, who say, we've always done things this way, or we're going to stick to the way that we are familiar with, or they don't have the digital capabilities, so they resist change. And that has an exponential impact on the organization as well.
In your opinion, why do you believe a shift in leadership is crucial for the technology industry? Could you also share some values that you consider are essential for success in digital transformation?
This is actually a really important question. And I recently had a conversation with a leadership team from an organization who said to me, transformation comes from bottom up. The people in the company need to change. But I think we need to remember that in any organization, in any structure, a formal structure or hierarchical structure, it's top down that drives behaviors and drives changes that are acceptable. So in an organizational environment, a traditional company, you would have leadership teams that set the tone for where they want to go, what's the vision for the company, what is the direction, and what is the appetite for change and disruption. And the leadership team's mindset is critical, because the leadership team also sets the tone around what is acceptable behavior. Are we risk averse, or are we risk accepting? What's the attitude towards exploration and learning during failures and things like that? And so I think many organizations fail to understand that it is the leadership teams that have to have the right mindset and the right capabilities and the right vision in order to ensure transformation works. And as I said earlier, digital transformation is an organization-wide change, right? If it's done top-down, the value and the impact as well as the implementation has a certain limit within certain business functions or teams. If it's done bottom-up. If it's done top-down, it's really something that can affect the entire organization. And so this is where I think it's really important for leadership teams to start embracing new mindsets that are required for the future of leadership, or the traits that are required in future organizations. So a couple of things that I had mentioned in my book, The Human Side of Digital Business Transformation. And the reason I mentioned this, I have to maybe preface that, is because I had to address this transformation in myself as a business leader. And that was a huge eye-opener for me, because I realized I am the person that drives the change. Hence, I need to look at my own characteristics and personalities and what I'm communicating as a leader. And so a few of the things that I addressed, one very important one is abundance mindset. Thinking beyond your current limited environment. For example, when we talk about digital transformation, we are looking at a shift from businesses being very much focused on your physical environment, right? Traditionally, a company needs to have a physical business environment or a space, an office. If you want to expand into a different market, typically you would have to set up your business physically in that market. Whereas in the current digital environment, a company can start on day one as a digital business and expand to the global market with little or no need for a physical space. This is very possible today. And you have access then to a global marketplace of consumers. And so this limited belief that businesses have to have certain boundaries or certain physical anchors, this is not necessary anymore. So exponential technologies allow us to look forward to growth and scale that we never were able to envision before. And I think this is where abundance mindset is important. We need to think beyond the traditional business environment, think beyond traditional limitations of business. This can be a challenge for leadership teams that have been in a business environment for 30, 40, 50 years, right? This traditional environment where they grew up in, all of a sudden is not so relevant anymore or has shifted. And you have to have the ability to envision what's possible with these new technologies, what's possible with these new solutions. The other piece is really empowering people. And so looking at our organizational environment, a lot of times the younger generation or the new generation of people, or even older generation, I don't think it has much to do with age, but people are becoming in general far more digitally sophisticated and digitally savvy. And they're using a lot more technology in their own personal life, and they're bringing these skills into the workplace. And so leadership teams need to be able to embrace that and say, my team members could be far more well-versed in new solutions like generative AI or mobile services and so on. So let's empower them to utilize these skills in their business environment. And a lot of times you are leading now people in an organization that are just digitally smarter than the leadership teams. And so how do we embrace these? How do we lead these different kinds of people? And now you're looking at a workforce that has different kinds of digital sophistication or different levels of that. So how do we motivate these different groups of people, and how do we keep them engaged in our organization as we go through change and transformation? There are several others that I do mention in my book: consciousness and empathy, adaptable and flexibility, as well as closeness to customers. Closeness to customers is an important one. Oftentimes when I speak to leadership teams, I ask, when was the last time you spoke to a customer of your company? And you will be surprised, most of the time the answer is they have not had physical or direct contact with the customers. This means leadership teams, unless you are in sales or marketing, you're too far away from your customer base. And so how do you understand what the market needs are if you're not speaking to the people that you actually sell to? So this is a very, very important element, and it helps to create this empathy around understanding what people need and why your company exists, and how do you deliver better for your current and future customers as well. Courage and conviction is another element that I think is really, really important, worth mentioning. It takes a bold leader to drive transformation, because it is a challenging process. As I said, it's organization-wide change, and it means really taking people on this journey of change and uncertainty. And you've got to be bold, because there will be people who are hesitant, there will be people who will fight against the change. And so being bold in your vision, being abundant in your vision, but also being able to have that courage to say, let's make this change and let's go together towards this change. I think that's quite important.
sense, and I totally agree. So, moving ahead, how do you see digital business transformation shaping the future of fintech? And what opportunities do organizations gain from embracing this transformation?
Fintech is really, I think, digital transformation as an element has triggered and enabled quite a lot of change in the financial service industry. It's created a far more competitive environment in FSI, and I think that's the core of it. One of the big outcomes that we've seen is accessibility of financial services to a broader range of people. A small example of that, if I think about maybe 10 years ago, a person like me or you would have a challenge gaining access to wealth management services from a bank, because those services would potentially be targeting high net worth individuals. Whereas with the fintech capabilities that we're seeing today with robo-advisors as well as small investment banks or services. So for example, Saxo Bank is a nice one where the capabilities to create financial wealth as well as to get access to trading has become democratized today. And this is because the fintech capabilities has advanced. It's created a much more competitive environment where, if we see over the years, over 50% of banks across the industry, across the globe, have started partnering with fintechs in order to make certain capabilities accessible to a broader range of people. And this was because the customer base that they worked with has started to demand better services from these financial services, right? People have gained access to digital businesses and digital native businesses like Amazon and Netflix and all of these types of online businesses that are so hyper-personalized, and they are so in tune with what customer needs are, that people are demanding the same level of service from all industries, including banks and other financial institutions. And so this drive or this push towards hyper-personalized capabilities, flexibility, becoming more simplified in terms of the capabilities and offerings, anywhere, anytime, anyhow access to my banking capabilities, all of this has come together and it's shifted the entire industry. And it's driven the growth of fintech as well. It's allowed for innovation, smaller companies to come in and become competitive with the bigger companies as well. So I find digital transformation is really an enabler, simply because it doesn't just say utilize new technologies, but it also looks at how else can we serve our customers? How can we offer better customer experience? What kinds of products and services can be enabled now in this new digital environment? How do we transform our business, the people, the organization structure, the operations? How do we improve on that with these new tech capabilities? And also, what kind of business models might exist? So I gave the example of Saxo Bank simply because I use Saxo Bank. That business model did not exist 10 years ago, right? And so this was a completely new business model that has come into the market and created competition as well. And so I think this is where digital transformation's value comes. It can create this industry-wide change and industry-wide shift that is so necessary today. So the book is called The Human Side of Digital Business Transformation. And what triggered me to write the book was really, over the last 2 decades, I really looked at, and I worked on digital transformation. I advised companies across the globe, and I realized that the one element that is often forgotten and underestimated is the people element. And the people element is the thing that makes or breaks transformation. It makes or breaks your digital solution, right? It's not just about implementing tech, but it's about looking at how do we get people from just being users of this new technology to advocates. And this is where I found, in my experience, when you do that part really well, you will have people in the organization who say, hey, I've tried this new solution that was implemented. It's the best thing, you have to try it. And this is where you get advocacy and you get strength in the organization for any transformation that's happening. And so what I found as well was there's so little information out there around how do you do this in the right way. And so the book really looks at several key elements. I tried to make it a really holistic story, so it looks at what are the changes in the market and why transformation is impactful or essential. What's the urgency because of the disruptive environment we're in, and looking at the human element. So these are elements around people, culture, as well as how do you shift the mindsets within an organization. And it also addresses leadership mindset shift. How do you transform that people element to ensure that you're creating a business environment that is ready and supportive of transformative change? And also I go into the elements of step by step, how do you do a digital transformation process within an organization. So it goes into quite a lot of detail, and I do cover the top 10 disruptive technologies that are changing the business landscape as well. So I think the key takeaway, if there's two things that I would say the book offers as a key takeaway, one would be this human side of transformation, which is not change management, it's not culture change, but it's a bigger piece. It includes also, the leadership mindset shift. It includes the looking at, where your organization should be or what kind of culture your company should have in the future. What are some of the fears and challenges, so the psychology behind digital transformation, and how do you as a leader manage these elements? And the second piece is really this step-by-step transformation approach, which we've implemented in many companies and found quite successful to accelerate transformation.
This sounds great, and this is for sure going to help all our viewers. And yes, so moving ahead, keeping up with the latest trends and technologies can be challenging. So how do you stay informed, and what advice would you give to professionals who are seeking to enhance their knowledge in digital business transformation?
This is actually a big challenge even for someone who is in the digital transformation space and the emerging tech space, because as I said, there's so many changes coming out, and the rate of change is rapid. So there are a couple of things that can be quite helpful. I have signed up to different kinds of newsletters, Future Loop, for example, TLDR, and these kinds of newsletters that on a daily basis captures some of the key changes and trends and developments, and sends kind of an email summary of that. I think it's also very important to create a network of people in your business environment who share this kind of information and who can connect and converse about it. It's one thing to read about what's the latest trend. It's another thing to talk about it and understand how it impacts your business. And so it's very important for leadership teams to come out of, it's rather challenging, because if you are in a business space and you're a leader, operational environment becomes your priority, right? The day-to-day running of the business and the day-to-day challenges that come up, and you're constantly firefighting and things like that. But it is important to try and allocate some time in your day or week to look at these latest trends and to kind of converse with other leaders and other experts around how this impacts your business. And is this really something my company needs to focus on? And these conversations can be very insightful. So I do try to have those types of conversations on Twitter and LinkedIn. And also, just platforms like, Discourse and Reddit and so on. They're very useful to bring in new ideas, and every conversation is learning. And so this is what I find the most exciting, basically, to really understand. And it's not just about current environment, it's about future environment, right? The changes are happening so fast. If we look at ChatGPT, the rate of development was within 3-4 months, where it just exponentially grew and changed the business landscape. And so having these views around, what's coming up in 3 months, in 5 months, in 1 year is going to be so critical for business leaders.
Great one. So, what advice would you give to professionals seeking to enhance their knowledge in digital transformation?
Very important to have a balanced view, I would say. It isn't just about technology implementation, although that is a big element, because the digital transformation part, understanding the impact of tech and the capabilities of these emerging tech, obviously, it can create exponential growth and scale and hyper-personalization that's possible for your business now. But the transformation part is the key element. And if you think about it, the transformation part is really about taking people on this journey of change and building a solid foundation that will support the exponential change that technology can bring. So if I give you a simple example, you want to implement blockchain in your organization. However, your internal organization structure, the processes, the people, their capabilities or their knowledge, the current technology landscape, the current business model, none of that supports a blockchain solution. So implementing an emerging tech in your current business will not work. And so business leaders really need to look at what is possible today, what's the readiness and maturity of my current organization, what can I implement, and what should I change in my core business environment to enable these new technologies. All of this has to come together, and that's why transformation can be overwhelming and can be quite a massive process. And so one of the things I do highlight in the book is how do you break this down into more manageable pieces? So don't try to boil the ocean. Let's break this down into what I call building blocks and address the building blocks, trying to identify the key gaps across these building blocks and where should I focus my energy first. My limited resources, limited number of people, limited investment, where do I focus first to get returns? And how do I then build on top of that? And I think this is a learning that is essential for business leaders who are looking to implement transformation.
So Kamales, in your opinion, how do you think the role of AI and data analytics will evolve in digital transformation strategies this year?
It's at the center of most companies' transformation plans this year, or digital implementation. This I think is challenging on many aspects because AI and data analytics is not something that's out of the box that you can implement, right? Obviously, there are out of the box tools that you can implement, and it has become fairly quick to implement, but there are some things that are prerequisites. If you want to do data analytics or you want to utilize AI on your data structures today, you need to have accurate data, sourced well, that's credible, that's at the right level of granularity, that's in a format that's usable. All of these are prerequisites. So you need to have a data strategy. You need to understand what is the value of AI and how you can maximize of that value. For example, if you want to use it for decision making, what kind of data points do you need in order to make the right decisions and gain the right insights? This is not so straightforward. So I think companies, there may be quick wins in the market. So companies are utilizing, for example, ChatGPT APIs, building their own kind of solutions. But everything depends on having the data structures in the right way. And oftentimes, incumbent organizations that I have spoken to, they don't have this prerequisites in the right setup that they need. And so that's kind of the pre-work that's required in order to ensure that you're using these technologies in the right way. So I think many companies are kind of jumping on the bandwagon and saying, ChatGPT is a big thing, let's implement something around that, or generative AI is needed. And I think if you're not in a business or in a industry where you can use it off the shelf and you can, for example, a creative designer using a text to image system that you can straight away utilize and create value. Otherwise, it's going to be, there's some prerequisites that companies need to ensure they plan for. And these prerequisites oftentimes may not be as simple or as cheap as you would imagine them to be. And so this is what I would urge companies that are planning to utilize AI as well as set up their data analytics. You need to have this, have a holistic view of what you're trying to achieve and what you need to set up before you can start using. And you need the capabilities. You need the people who have the right knowledge, and oftentimes I would suggest having those capabilities in-house as well. You can use external resources, but building up these capabilities in-house is going to be essential.
Right. So, Kamales, just moving out of track now. So, this is the fun part of the video round. So here comes the fun question. If you had to create a dish based on your personality, what would it be and why?
A dish based on my personality. So first I have to preface and say I've been a vegetarian for over 30 years now. So I have to stick with a vegetarian dish, and I would probably go for, I would say, a pau. I don't know if you know that. It's a Malaysian dish. I'm Malaysian. And it's a soft white bun with a filling inside, and it's steamed. And so this is something that I truly miss being in Switzerland, because you don't really get access to this food here. But it is, I would say it represents me very much, because it's soft and smooth and, fluffy on the outside, but it's full of flavor, and there's a lot of different mix of ingredients and flavor, and there's a depth to the inside filling. And so I would see myself as that as well, what I represent on the outside, or what people may see, and what capabilities I might have internally and built up over the years is much more flavorful, I would say. So that's my answer.
So Kamales, it was fun talking to you today, and thank you for joining us at the MC's Luminary Lounge. Your expertise and insights made our session truly exceptional. Thank you so much for being part of Luminary Lounge.